and I'm back with a new lesson on the difference between understatement and exaggeration. Well, using an understatement and an exaggeration while speaking English really enhances the way you speak. It kind of adds a bit of flair to your language. Well, what is understatement and what is exaggeration? Let's have a look. Understatement is nothing but a way of expressing an idea but like all ideas that are expressed in the English language, understatement is not just expressing an idea, but it is a way of expressing an idea with a lower level of emotion, maybe a lower level of enthusiasm, or maybe a lower level of energy. So basically, understatement is a way of putting across a point in a more subtle or in a more quiet way. For example, I look at a really handsome man across the road, and I know all you girls swoon at looking at good-looking men, but if I want to use an understatement, I will make sure that I express my idea with less emotion, with less enthusiasm, and with less energy. So I will say something like, he is not a bad looking man. Now mind you, the guy I saw across the road, the man I saw across the road actually, was very, very handsome, drop dead gorgeous. But I decided to use an understatement because I wanted to make sure that my level of emotion, my level of enthusiasm and energy were quite low in comparison with the actual reality. So I say something like, he is not a bad looking man. Now let us compare this with what an exaggeration is. An exaggeration is very much the opposite of an understatement. So can I say that an exaggeration is a way of expressing an idea with a higher level of emotion, with a higher level of enthusiasm, and definitely with a lot of energy. So basically, the idea behind exaggerating or expressing an idea by using an exaggeration is to sound more active and to sound more energetic. So let's take the same situation. I see a really handsome guy across the road. But when I used an understatement, I said, he is not a bad looking man. But now that I'm exaggerating, I am pushing up the emotion, I am pushing up the enthusiasm and my energy level. I will say, he is drop dead gorgeous. Or I might say, he is the most handsome man I've ever seen. So you see the difference between an understatement and an exaggeration. Very different. But now, why are both used? And how can we use them to enhance our speaking skills? Let's take a look. Now that you've seen the difference between an understatement and an exaggeration, let us see the reasons why we use the two. Well, there are several reasons why you use an understatement, but one of them is to appear modest. What is it to appear modest? it basically means to not be a person who shows off too much. So if you are probably a person who, for example, has been to several countries around the world, and if somebody asks you if you've been to many foreign countries, if you want to understate your point, you will say, yes, I've been to a few places. So you don't go around showing off that, yes, I've been to all the countries in the world. You say something more subtle, something more quiet, like, yes, I've been to a few places. And the second reason why you would use an understatement is to disagree with someone, but make sure you don't offend that person. So suppose if you have a kid who is not really doing very well in school, or is not doing her homework on time, or not really doing the things that you want her to do, instead of, offending her by, really giving her a dressing down, you could say something like, that wasn't the smartest thing to do. So maybe your kid, drove her car and, she bumped the car into a wall, and you're not really happy with that. You disagree with the fact that she's even driving. You don't want her to drive. So you tell her things like, that wasn't the smartest thing to do, as opposed to berating her or making her feel really bad. And then you also use an understatement for the fact that you want to criticize someone, but you want to appear less aggressive. You don't want to be really out there and attack someone. So I can say something like, you could have handled that better. So why would I use something like that? Suppose I'm in my office and I have some co-workers who are doing a job, but they've not done it as well as I think they should have. So instead of criticizing them and attacking them, I want to, tone it down a little bit, and I will say, you could have handled that a little better. A better way of saying it, isn't it? Now let's look at exaggeration. We all know what it is to exaggerate, but what are the reasons we use an exaggeration for? The first reason is to encourage someone or to compliment them. So if I'm a person who likes to encourage people and uplift people, I will always exaggerate. So maybe I have a friend who has gone in for a singing audition, and he may not be the best singer, but to encourage him, I will say, you're the best thing I've ever heard. Now, we know that this is not the truth, okay? So when you are exaggerating, a lot of times you are not telling the truth. So because he's your friend, because you want to encourage him and uplift him, you won't say that you're an okay singer. I will say, you're the best thing I've ever heard. Go for it. That's what an exaggeration is all about. The second reason is not a very good reason to exaggerate, and that is to deliberately appear rude. Don't you hate people like those? Well, there are some people who want to express an idea, but as I explained, they want to kind of, tone it up a little bit. They want to be more enthusiastic about their idea, and they don't really care for people's feelings. So that's what happens when you deliberately try to appear rude. And a sentence like, you see a singer who's not very good for an audition, and I could say, you are completely and utterly useless. Or I can look at a piece of work and say, that was rubbish. So basically, when I'm exaggerating, I can uplift somebody and I can really put that person down. So exaggeration is a very strong tool when you are speaking, and so is an understatement. Well, I hope you've kind of got the difference between the two, and you can use it and apply it while you speak to enhance your speaking skills. This is me saying goodbye. I'll see you with some more lessons.